What is up, Packers fans? Happy Wednesday. Welcome into an all-new episode of the Pack-A-Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can find the podcast at Pack-A-Day Podcast. A special bonus episode today. If you haven't checked out the Paul Farrington boys already, along with myself and our new collaboration, highly recommend doing that. But we've got an extra one today with Aaron Nagler breaking down Packers Lions. This is going to be an episode that airs every single week, but in the future, it will be for Pack-A-Day Podcast YouTube members, as well as for Cheesehead TV newsletter subscribers. So if you are not signed up for one of those yet, make sure to do so. Love these conversations with Aaron. You're going to enjoy them all season long. So another great reason to check out those Pack-A-Day Podcast YouTube memberships. Before I get into today's show, I do want to remind you that we are partnered with Luigi's Frozen Pizzas. I've spent way too much time thinking about what my favorite aspect of Luigi's pizzas are. The toppings are incredible. There's no two ways around it. The cheese is incredible. Absolutely. No question about it. But I keep going back to the sauce. It is truly the sauce. It is my favorite pizza sauce. It is so delicious every single time. It's got the right sweetness. It has the right saltiness. And it just hits different, whether it's on the self-rising fresh dough pizzas or whether it's on their ultra thin crust, whatever one it is. It's the sauce that really makes the pizza. And here's the thing. You're going to love the sauce, but you're also going to love the toppings and the cheese and the crust and everything because they care about their ingredients. Just like we here at Pack-A-Day care about the high quality content that we put out every day. It's the same high quality stuff that they put into their pizzas every single day as well. Follow them over at luigispizza.com and of course at Luigi's Pizza on social media. Now let's get into our conversation with Aaron Nagler.
What's going on, Packers fans? Aaron Nagler here, joined by Andy Herman. Andy, we are back.
We are so back. It is week one. We were just talking offline of how it's been so difficult to concentrate on a week one matchup, which would normally be taking all of the oxygen of everything that we're doing because we're still buzzing over, of course, the fact that Micah Parsons is a Green Bay Packer, still coming to terms and grips with all of that. And then, yeah, oh, by the way, one of the biggest games of the entire season, Packers-Lions, Lambeau Field, just happens to be week one, just to add that beautiful cherry on top of the sundae. So, yeah, not exactly a lack of conversation points at this point.
Absolutely love it. We'll be talking, as we do each and every week after the game, we're doing Let's Talk Football, and we'll be doing these preview videos each and every week for our subscribers, Pack-A-Day podcast members and Cheesehead TV Nation newsletter subscribers. You guys will get exclusive access to these preview talks, but this week we just wanted to keep it public and let everybody see what we do each and every week as we preview a monster matchup. Here's the thing, Andy. The Packers could get slapped back to reality real quick with Dan Campbell's crew, who, everybody's aware, they've had the Packers number, especially at Lambeau, which I got to say is a bit concerning. I know there's been a lot of talk about the brain drain in Detroit, the loss of the coordinators, etc. But, man, I'm telling you, the way that team plays ball and the way they approach the game, that hasn't changed. There's still going to be a Dan Campbell crew coming in week one and relatively healthy. This is a big, tough challenge for the Packers right out of the gate.
There's no team that would more revel in the idea of ruining Micah Parsons' debut after the big transaction and after we're abuzz with everything that's been going on than for this Lions team just to come in and punch Green Bay right in the mouth and say, oh, by the way, we can still, out physical you, out tough you. That's exactly what they're going to try to do. And for all the excitement that there is with the Micah Parsons trade, there is, of course, that question on the interior of the defense with Kenny Clark. The interior of the Lions offensive line is not the same either. No Frank Regno, no Kevin Zeitler. But I think that's one of the real key matchups early on. I have no doubt that they're going to run the ball heavy with Dan Campbell and company early in this game, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, just to see if they can test that interior of the Packers offensive line. Because guess what? You don't have to deal with Micah Parsons quite as much if things are consistently in 3rd and 1 and 3rd and short situations. And we'll see if Detroit can live in those or if Green Bay can get them into some disadvantageous looks and unleash Micah Parsons a little bit more. But yeah, Detroit's going to come with the same mentality that they always have in the Dan Campbell era. I loved his comments about how he loves playing at Lambeau Field. I hate that I have some level of
pouring honey in our ears. I see you, Dan Campbell. I
know. But this is going to be a really fun match. But like you said, this unbelievable litmus test right away for Green Bay for what they can potentially do in this matchup with Detroit.
Yeah, especially the physical aspect of the game. And we'll start where you kind of what you just highlighted as far as the offensive line for Detroit against the defensive line, the defensive front for the Packers. There's little doubt that the interior is the kind of spot that I think most eyes will be on if you're looking for the matchup as far as who's pushing who around.
Yeah.
with the loss of Kenny Clark, no more TJ Slayton. Those are the guys that they really leaned on last year to stop the run. And as you said, I think the Lions get off the bus running the football in this game. There's no doubt that, the young guys who are going to be asked to step up, whether it's the Colby Woodens of the world, maybe even a Nazir Stackhouse, they're going to be tested right out of the gate. And to my eyes, the kind of approach that Hafley takes in this regard is going to be fascinating as far as, does he commit numbers? Does he put, even more defensive backs in the box even to try and stop things on early downs? Because, it is going to be a bit of a mystery as far as how the interior of the defensive line holds up against, yes, somewhat of a kind of a new fit offensive interior for the Lions. But man, if I'm Hafley, that is probably my major concern, like right from kickoff.
For sure. And I think I'm interested in two things. One is, do they commit numbers to it? And then obviously on the back end of that, what does that mean for Jamison Williams and some of those outside wide receivers that have the ability maybe to get some one-on-ones on the outside? That to me is number one. And just number two is, if they do not commit numbers, does Jeff Hafley kind of, when he first came, he said he really wanted to be kind of a penetrating, even in run defense. He wanted those defensive tackles to be able to get upfield a little bit more and cause chaos in the backfield.
Stop the run on the way to the quarterback.
Exactly. So I'm wondering if, with a little bit of, some like Devontae Wyatt, Carl Brooks, Warren Brinson, even Colby Wooden, who I know put on weight, these are not like your 315, 320 pound defensive linemen. These are more gap penetrating, almost like three technique type defensive tackles. Are they just going to lean entirely into that? And there's a piece of me that, when teams broke runs on Green Bay last year, it was like 12 yards. It wasn't like the 20, 30, 40, 50 knock on wood variety for the most part. They were able to hold them. I almost wonder if you lean into this idea a little bit of like, we're getting upfield. And you know what? If on 1st and 10, you rip off a 12-yard run against us, all right, no deal. No big deal. We can live with that. And now we're going to do the same thing again, get upfield. And now we stopped you for a 3-yard loss. And now you're in 2nd and 13. And now we dictate terms to you. You don't dictate terms to us. We dictate terms to you. So I almost wonder if there's a little bit of you can't get pushed around. I don't think anyone's saying that, but we're going to be sound fundamentally. We're going to control our gaps. We're going to have everyone where they're supposed to be, but we're going to penetrate upfield. And eventually we're going to get you in a 2nd and long, which we can convert into a 3rd and long. And then we're getting you off the field. And I just wonder how much he's going to lean into that a little bit.
I'm glad you brought up the 3rd and long too, because one thing that the Lions did very well in both matchups last year. Now, obviously this was a different offensive coordinator and a play caller, but one of the things they did really well was on 3rd downs. I don't know if they had the tendencies down or what, as far as what kinds of pressures that Hafley would like to call in certain situations, or even which side the pressure was coming from. But man, they did an excellent job of taking advantage of the Packers' pressure looks by this use of the screen game. And that could be the running backs, it could be wide receiver screens, what have you. They converted so many 3rd downs using the screen game. It makes me wonder. Obviously, we're very excited about Micah Parsons, and he should hopefully be at least a limited participant as far as, being asked to get after the quarterback on 3rd down. But man, if I'm Hafley, I don't want to say never calling a pressure, but I am really kind of reticent to commit any kind of numbers in, even if my front four isn't getting home. This is a game where I think their playbook, the things they like to do, their personnel certainly helps dictate a lot of this. They're going to be throwing a lot of horizontal stuff, and I want eyes on the quarterback, eyes on the backfield, eyes on the ball to make sure that we're not just rushing upfield and getting left in the dust, because that, again, happened a bunch of times last season.
Yeah, I wonder if we get a lot more simulated pressure because of that, where it looks like they're going to bring people, but then kind of bail out of it and cover some of that stuff up, hoping that guys like Rashawn Gary and Micah can get there just with a 4-man rush. The second thing, and I'm so glad you brought up this 3rd down situation, Aaron, if it's a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15, and you hold them to a 4th and 1, or a 4th and 2.
Oh boy,
I don't want to see the 4th down hand go up and be like, we held them, we got them off the we are in a new NFL, Aaron, and especially against the Detroit Lions. Job not done. You have done nothing yet. 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. You now have.
They undoubtedly called a play to get to 4th and
4th and 1, 4th and 2, and have a play usually specifically designed to take advantage of something that you've probably put on film already, or a tendency, but whatever the case may be.
Right.
Job is not done if you on 3rd and 18 or held them to 4th and 2. You still have a whole nother down to play, my friend. So I don't need to see the fist go up of holding them to 4th down and everyone celebrating on the field. You've got one more down to play. And I think that mentality needs to change, because just even going back, and I get, this is not just a Jeff Hafley thing or a Packers thing. This is around the NFL now, where it used to be, hey, you're on your side of the field and you held them to a 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 4th and inches. They were punting that ball away to you and you could celebrate. You can't have that mentality anymore, because they're going to run it right up, or either right up the gut or do whatever they need to do to pick up that first down still.
Totally agree. It's funny you mentioned that. I asked LaFleur about that during training camp, and he kind of, I don't want to say punted on the question, because I asked, like, have you talked to Hafley about this exact thing you're talking about, the approach around the league? And he kind of steered it towards the Lions and the fact that they were down so many guys in that final game, blah, blah, blah. Man, I think it is a league-wide thing. I think there are plenty of teams that are operating under the idea of we've got 4 downs to play with, especially once we get to even our own 40, let alone the opponent's 40. That is 4-down territory in the NFL for a lot of offenses now. And again, I don't think that's a Ben Johnson thing. No. I think that's a Dan Campbell thing. And I think that is going to be their approach. If they get, outside their 30-yard line and they're on, 3rd and long or whatever, the idea is to let's pick up 8 yards, right? And then put ourselves in a manageable 4th down. We've talked our whole football lives about manageable 3rd downs. It's manageable 4th downs at this point. I very much agree.
It is. And I think, the other thing that goes on top of that is new kick return rules. Obviously if a touchback goes to the 35 right. and if the average kick return position is like the 33 or something, you're maybe 1 first down away. If at bat, again, you 8 yards, you're at the 41-yard line. If the average position is like the 33. So you already, even you hold them that very first time, 3 plays, 8 yards, it's 4th and 2. They're on the 41-yard line. They might be going for that already. So again, it's just, to me, it's going to be a totally new mentality for some of these teams.
Let's switch it over to the offensive side of the ball with the Packers and Jordan Love seemingly good to go. We talked with Packers.com about his thumb being right as rain and ready to participate in the week 1 matchup here. I got to say, this to me is all about the Packers being disciplined on offense, because I don't care what the approach is, X's and O's wise, attack them however you want. But man, there have been way too many games against this Detroit Lions team where the Packers have shot themselves in the foot, either with pre-snap penalties, putting them behind the sticks, fumbles, miscues, whatever mistakes you want to talk about, the Packers have made them. And in a game against a team that has essentially just come in and gone up on you big in the first half, the last couple times they've come into Lambeau, this is a game where the Packers have to play clean ball more than anything else, especially early. I don't care if they march the field and have to settle for a field goal. If they can play a clean brand of football out of the gate, I'll feel pretty good about the rest of the game. But if they come out and there's a false start or there's some kind of, procedural penalty, whatever, you guys not lined up on the line of scrimmage, something like that, man, that gets in your head real quick. And I'll be maybe not upset, but that'll be disappointing after the season they had last year.
There's I don't know. I don't have a ton of accident forgiveness for it, but there's a little bit when you're the youngest team in the league twice in a row and you're trying to figure out kind of the nuances of stuff. That there is some growing pains that goes into it. You face some really good teams and maybe you can be a little bit shell shocked in those games. This might still be a really young team. They're an experienced team now, and you just can't come out in these games and all of a sudden, like if it's 17-3 Lions going into the second quarter, it is going to feel like I've seen this story before. You just can't start behind the 8 ball like they have against Philly, Minnesota, Detroit, going back to last year. You need to come out and be ready to play right away. And the worst thing that you can do is, like we saw the turnover by Keyshawn to begin the game last year against Philly, or just again having the drops, having the miscues, the false start penalties. There has to be a level of focus and, again, just sort of dictating terms to the other team, not having that fear or trepidation that things are going to go wrong. You have to go out and just play your game. And I think this is going to be a team that's ready to play the Lions. It's going to have a good game plan in place, but that all goes out the window really quick if you're dropping passes or having procedural penalties, etc. So I think we're all on the same page there. We want to see this team, especially on offense, come out and play a much cleaner brand of football. Hey, friends, we are all set to make our picks. Thursday night football is almost here. Cowboys, Eagles. I cannot wait to get my sleeper picks in, or in this case, share my sleeper picks with you. I've got 3 that I'm going with for sleeper this week. Number one, Dak Prescott, this one should be pretty easy. More than 1.5 passing yard. Yes, they have a promo going right now. Dak Prescott, more than 1.5 passing yard. I like my odds on that one. Go get after that one as soon as you have a chance. Number 2, A.J. Brown, more than 70.5 receiving yards. Now, remember back to last year, A.J. Brown and the Philadelphia Eagles versus Green Bay as they played each other in Brazil in the opening week. Green Bay had a healthy Jair Alexander, and A.J. Brown completely destroyed the Packers secondary. One of the few, quite frankly, to do it all season long against Green Bay. When A.J. Brown is healthy and he is fresh, he is a demon to go against. I expect him to tear through this Dallas Cowboys secondary, especially with not having Micah Parsons up front on defense. So A.J. Brown, more than 70.5 receiving yards. And then last but not least, Saquon Barkley, fewer than 96.5 rushing yards. We heard all week from Jerry Jones how imperative it is that they stop the run. They bring in Kenny Clark. All eyes are going to be on stopping Saquon Barkley. By the way, that doesn't mean that Saquon Barkley can't have a big day receiving as well, but I think they're going to do everything in their power to hold him under 100 yards rushing. So I'm going fewer than 96.5 rushing yards for Saquon Barkley. As you can see here, $5 entry to win $27.55. That's what I'm going with. 100% deposit match up to $100 by using code PACKADAY. Make sure you get after that. Again, my 3 picks: Dak Prescott, more than 1.5 passing yard; A.J. Brown, more than 70.5 receiving yards; and Saquon Barkley, fewer than 96.5 rushing yards. Use promo code PACKADAY and you are going to get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. What are you waiting for?
What do you think? Because I was asked about this on Daily, and I have to say I'm very much of the mind that this is not going to be the approach. But someone asked because the big game on Thanksgiving a couple years ago where they could go deep to Watson. That first play Watson ever had as a rookie deep in Minnesota that he drops. Matt is not averse to taking a shot early, even on the first play of the game. And I've already heard the drum beats of, go deep to Matthew Golden right out of the gate. I have to think of all the teams, the Detroit Lions are going to have 2 deep safeties on that first snap, specifically so the Packers do not try to do that. Because I think at home, game 1, Matthew Golden, your new starting rookie, phenom, wide receiver, I would suspect that would be an expectation. And I would suspect Matt will try to shy away from that, try and be a little bit more strategic / conservative, at least early on in this game.
I think there will be a shot play to Matthew Golden at some point. I'm looking for a deep post at some point in this game to Matthew Golden. That will be attempted once, if maybe not twice, throughout the course of this game. I do not think it'll be on the first play. I do not think it will necessarily be on that first drive, but I do think there will be something that tries to get Matthew Golden on a deep post at some point, and rightfully so. That's what you should be doing. You don't have Christian Watson. You need to kind of keep those safeties honest at some point. But to your point, man, Detroit and Green Bay have 2 of the best safety units in the NFL. Those 2 are not fooled easily. They're going to be on top of it. They're going to be aware of exactly who Matthew Golden is. I don't care that he's a rookie in his first game. They'll be well prepared for it. And it's going to be tough to figure out a way to kind of get those guys to bite on something maybe inside or in a different way so that you can get that look open deep. Maybe Golden could just run past everybody. I wouldn't necessarily put it past him, but I don't think we're going to see a Christian Watson first play of the game sort of thing. But hey, if you can do it and you can pull it off and Matthew Golden can get a touchdown right away, that would certainly be one way to start off the season and the Matthew Golden era. That's for sure.
Now, of course, to do any of that, to do anything we're just talking about, you got to be able to hold up front. And as we're recording this, it's prior to Wednesday's practice and the first injury report. I think a monster, let's call it a concern, going into this week and or this kind of practice today is Elton Jenkins. Is he up? Is he playing center? Because he did not participate in Monday's practice. Clearly, there's a bit of a domino effect if he's unable to go. But really, your concern obviously is out of the tackle position. We know Rasheed Walker's starting. Maybe they rotate Jordan Morgan in throughout the game. We got Zach Tom, newly minted Zach Tom there at right tackle. Hutchinson's going to be bouncing between those 2, I would suspect, trying to find which matchup he prefers and which matchup he thinks and they think he can take advantage of. man, this is a game where they haven't had to deal with Hutchinson for a while because he was hurt, right? And I mean, you talk about best laid plans. He can absolutely wreck you like right away. All the stuff we've talked about, Micah Parsons, he can do the same thing. He is a one-man wrecking crew. So each and every one of these plays has to begin with how do we deal with Hutchinson? Where are we sliding? Where's the chip? What numbers, or whether it's a tight end, running back, what have you? To me, that's everything. And I got to think, even outside of the one-on-one stuff, they're going to have games, they're going to have stunts, they're going to try and get him loose as many different ways as possible. That's where it all starts on offense. It's you got to take care of him, or else he'll turn your lights out.
I thought prior to injury, he was the best defensive player in football this past year. Agreed. I thought he was just absolutely playing out of his mind. And to me, that is very much where it starts. To me, he is a one-man wrecking crew, but there's not a ton on their front seven that scares me outside of Aiden Hutchinson. And that sometimes can make things a little bit easier. I'm not saying they're walkovers, pushovers, anything like that. It's not going to be easy, but Aiden Hutchinson's the one that you have to be cognizant of at all times. So that's the first thing is, where is he lined up? Are we chipping? Are we keeping a running back in the backfield, or what are we doing to help out? Because that's the one guy you just cannot have wreck shop if you're Green Bay. You can live if El Kadim Muhammad all of a sudden has a good game or something. You tip your cap. But if all of a sudden Aiden Hutchinson has one of his 3 sack games and it's just going off, you just cannot allow that to happen in any real way. So with all the buzz of Micah Parsons, what he can do, like you said, Aiden Hutchinson has a lot of that ability on the other side. And so you got to make sure that you are containing him as best as you possibly can and not giving him advantageous matchups to get to the quarterback.
And the other thing too is, the running game that the Packers should be able to kind of lean on here, something they obviously did a lot of last season, it hasn't been as effective or productive against the Lions the last couple matchups. And to me, I got to think LaFleur, Stenovich, etc., that's something they want to lean on as much as possible in this first game, where the offenses are always notoriously slow starting in the NFL. Week 1 especially, it's very, very kind of hit and miss. I got to think you want these guys firing off the ball up front, and trying to mute some of that pass rush ability for the Lions. But it's so funny how you go through a whole offseason, you do get the first round wide receiver, you got all this new kind of energy on offense, the quarterback's ready to go, etc. And it's like, it comes back to me, it's still going to come back to pounding the rock. I think everything is going to flow off of that, hopefully a lot more effectively and efficiently than it did last season. But I still think that's got to be the foundation. And anyone expecting them to come out and have Jordan Love throw it 45 times in this game is in for a rude awakening.
And if Jordan is throwing 45 times, it's probably not an advantageous
outcome. Because it's now they're down 17-3.
Exactly. So it's probably not what you're looking for, right? I get there's so much fun stuff to watch in this game. Matthew Golden, Micah Parsons, how Jordan Love is playing in year 3 as a starter. There's so many fun storylines, but as you know, Aaron, it's so much that it comes down to the trenches. We talked about the interior on the other side and keeping an eye on the Lions interior of the offensive line against those young, Packers defensive tackles. I'm interested here as well. You have Aaron Banks as the new left guard. I don't think anyone has a great feel yet for what Aaron Banks is as a Green Bay Packer. Nope. It could be Sean Ryan at center if Elton Jenkins can't go. Hopefully everyone listening is in a world where everyone knows that Elton Jenkins practiced and it said in an interview that he's going to be good to go or something. But as we're recording this, we don't know. And it could be Jordan Morgan at right guard if Ryan has to pinch inside, who would be getting his real first starting opportunity. And for Detroit, man, DJ Reader is such a tough player to move inside. And then their big first round defensive tackle too, Tyleek Williams, he's no walk in the park either. So if you want to establish that run inside with Josh Jacobs from Green Bay's point of view, those matchups are going to be really fun. I'm watching, the first thing that I'm watching on both sides is which way is that line moving on both offense and defense? Is it advantage Green Bay? Is it advantage Detroit? Because as lame and as fun and as exciting as the other stuff is, and as lame as this stuff kind of feels like, I think literally the game will be decided quite arguably in the interior of those trenches.
And finally, we sometimes hear on this conversation we have previewing the games, I like to make light of the specialists and the special teams because we're just be competent. That's been our thing for years, right? I will say it is a bit otherworldly going into a season of recent vintage thinking, what, if it comes down to a field goal or if there are field goals attempted, I feel pretty good about it. I don't feel nervous. I don't feel anywhere near the trepidation and anxiety I felt last season heading into Brazil where, and look, absolutely everything you were afraid of happened right out of the gate. I feel a sense of calm and peace with McManus back there.
Aaron, we are blessed in perpetuity for quarterbacks. We get, Bart Starr, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love. We get every once, every decade or so, we get a Reggie White, a Charles Woodson, a Micah Parsons. We are cursed on special teams. And until I see anything different, I will believe that they will screw us in every way, shape, or form.
Fair point.
And I refuse until I see at the end of the year that, look, they're like top 10 special teams unit. I will gladly applaud. I have been fooled too many times, my friend. We've had this conversation. Yeah, they're going to have a competent special teams this year. And then it's like, immediately some boneheaded thing happens. So I would love to believe. I think you're right. I would love to believe.
See, I noticed I didn't mention coverage. I didn't say anything about protection or coverage.
I would love to believe it. I've given myself a very strict order of I will never trust Packers special teams ever again. It's never going to happen. So until I see it at the end of the year, I refuse to believe it. But I think hopefully that you're right.
That is a more than fair position, Andy Herman, and I applaud you for it. Andy, cannot thank you enough for the time. As I said at the top, make sure you're subscribing to Pack a Day Podcast, subscribe to the Cheesehead TV Nation newsletter, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, Andy.
Can't wait. Thanks, Aaron.